Hello, and welcome to a topic that's absolutely going to keep you on the edge of your seat. We're diving headfirst into the thrilling world of Canadian economic policy. Okay, maybe thrilling is a stretch, but stick with me. Today, we're asking the hard-hitting question, is Canada a sleeping giant? You see, Canada has this reputation. It's like that friend with a ton of potential. They're smart, they're capable, they've got great hair, but they just haven't quite lived up to it yet. They're content with a good, solid B+, while everyone around them is gunning for an A++. We'll explore the reasons behind this perception of Canada as a country sitting on a goldmine of potential, but reluctant to swing a pickaxe. We'll dig into the factors that contribute to this image, from its abundant natural resources to its regulatory environment, and see if Canada is truly asleep at the economic wheel or just taking a more leisurely, maple syrup-fueled approach to growth. Welcome to our deep dive into whether Canada is a sleeping rich country. Let's start with the obvious. Canada is absolutely loaded. We're talking mountains of oil, oceans of timber, enough nickel to satisfy even the most demanding Thanos. If natural resources were Instagram followers, Canada would be Kylie Jenner. But here's the catch. Canada often acts like a country with a trust fund so big it never learned to invest. It's comfortable extracting and exporting raw materials, like some sort of resource-rich teenager selling their parents' old baseball cards on eBay. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing inherently wrong with exporting natural resources, but relying on it too heavily is like subsisting on a diet of only maple syrup. Sure, it's delicious, but eventually, you're going to want something more. Canada needs to diversify its economy, moving beyond just digging stuff up and chopping stuff down. It needs to focus on adding value, on innovation, on turning those raw materials into something truly special. Imagine a world where Canada isn't just known for its raw lumber, but for its beautifully designed, sustainably sourced furniture. Where it's not just an oil exporter, but a global leader in renewable energy technology. That's the potential we're talking about, folks. But to unlock that potential, Canada needs to stop treating its natural resources like a security blanket and start treating them like the building blocks of a more prosperous future. Canada is really big. Like if it were a hat, you'd need a head the size of Texas to wear it. But here's the thing about all that space, it's mostly empty. Canada's population density is, well, it's pathetic. To put it in perspective, if Canada were a standard-sized office building, there'd be like 3 people working there. And one of them would be a moose on their lunch break. This sparse population presents a unique challenge. With a small domestic market, it's harder for Canadian businesses to achieve the scale they need to compete globally. It's like trying to fill a stadium for a concert when your entire town only has 12 people. This also leads to a shortage of skilled labor, which, let's be honest, is a problem most countries would kill for, but it makes it difficult for Canadian companies to grow and innovate when they're constantly competing for a limited pool of talent. Now, some might argue that a smaller population means less strain on resources and a higher quality of life. And sure, there's something to be said for breathing room and not having to fight someone for the last carton of poutine at the grocery store, but to truly become an economic powerhouse, Canada needs to find a way to attract and retain more people. It needs to turn that vast wilderness into a bustling hub of innovation and growth. Maybe offer some incentives like free healthcare. Oh wait, they've already got that. Now let's not be too harsh on Canada. It's not like they're technological Neanderthals huddled around a flickering fire trying to invent the wheel. Canada has some genuinely impressive sectors. Their banking system is notoriously stable. They've practically mastered the art of real estate. And their AI research is giving Silicon Valley a run for its money. But when it comes to scaling those tech companies to creating the next Google or Amazon, well, Canada's track record is a little more MySpace than Meta. Part of this is due to what we talked about earlier, the small domestic market and the shortage of skilled labor. But there's also a sense of risk aversion in the Canadian tech scene, a reluctance to go all in on big, bold ideas. It's like they're playing poker with their chips glued to the table, while Elon Musk is over there betting his entire spaceship company on a hand of space blackjack. To truly compete on the global tech stage, Canada needs to foster a culture of innovation, of taking risks, of embracing failure as a stepping stone to success. They need to stop apologizing for being bold and start celebrating it. Let's talk about Canada's neighbor to the south, shall we? You know, that country with the questionable healthcare system and the insatiable appetite for reality TV? Yes, that one. Being right next door to the United States is a double-edged sword for Canada. On the one hand, they benefit enormously from trade agreements and close economic ties. They get to be the quiet, responsible roommate who benefits from the messy roommate's Netflix account. But on the other hand, it's easy to get overshadowed by your louder, more attention-grabbing neighbor. Imagine trying to have a conversation at a party while standing next to someone who's juggling chainsaws and singing karaoke. That's Canada's geopolitical reality. To carve out its own distinct identity on the global stage, Canada needs to leverage its unique strengths. It needs to be the country known for its stability, its progressive values, its commitment to sustainability. It needs to be the boring, sensible friend you call when the chainsaw juggler crashes their car again. Bureaucracy. The lifeblood of governments and the bane of entrepreneurs everywhere. And let's just say, Canada isn't exactly known for its laissez-faire approach to regulation. Some argue that Canada's heavy regulations, high taxes, and love of paperwork are stifling economic growth. They say it's like trying to run a marathon while wearing a snowsuit and carrying a backpack full of tax forms. There's a certain irony to a country that prides itself on its natural beauty having so much red tape. It's like going on a hike through a pristine forest, only to find out you need a permit to look at a tree. Now, to be fair, regulations are often put in place for good reason, to protect consumers, workers, and the environment. But there's a fine line between necessary oversight and bureaucratic overkill. Canada needs to find a way to streamline its regulatory processes, to reduce the burden on businesses, and to create an environment that encourages investment and innovation. Because right now, it sometimes feels like they're more focused on filling out paperwork than they are on building the future. So is Canada destined to be forever known as the land of untapped potential? The country with all the ingredients for success but lacking the recipe? Not necessarily. While Canada may not be a fire-breathing dragon of economic dominance, it's also not the sleepy, lumbering giant some make it out to be. Canada is more like a wise, old, owl-observant, strategic, and maybe a little too fond of sitting in trees. It has the potential to achieve great things, but it needs to be willing to spread its wings and take flight. So while Canada has untapped economic potential, it's not necessarily asleep, but rather taking a more cautious and steady approach to growth. This approach has its merits, but to truly soar, Canada might need a little less caution and a little more of that go-get-'em Canadian goose spirit.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Always Mabel Canada and click the notification bell to get notified every time we upload all the amazing videos. See you next time.